Okay, so now today we'll be seeing on test environment setup. So in STLC, what are the phases? Can anyone tell me what are the phases in STLC? So first was requirement analysis, right?
Record. Yes, ma'am.
Someone else is. So in requirement analysis, we saw how to create a test scenario using requirements, right? And take a requirement list, how we prepare a requirement list or an epic, right? After requirement analysis, what is the phase?
Design phase or feasibility
No,
phase.
No,
ma'am.
no, no,
Planning,
STLC, STLC.
planning, planning, ma'am.
Yeah,
Planning, ma'am.
test planning. So in test planning, we saw how to prepare a test plan, right? So after test plan, what is it?
Design.
Yeah, designing. So in this, we saw how to create test cases, right? Test case designing we saw. After that, it is test
Ma'am.
environment
Coding,
setup.
ma'am. Coding, ma'am. Code
No, 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 no,
implementation.
no. This is test STLC, not SDLC.
Okay.
STLC. So after that, it is test environment setup. Okay, we didn't see anything about test environment setup. So today I'll be taking you through that. And after that, it is testing. We saw types of testing, right? And after
Yes, ma'am.
that, we have test closure, test cycle
Execution.
closure, right? So today, what we are going to do is, so we will see what is a test. We'll see the test environment phase, which is completely about the test environment setup. How, what is a test environment setup, and how test environment is set up using test data. So test data is nothing but whatever data we use during our testing, right? That those are called as test data. So how we are going to prepare test data, that also we'll see. And if time permits, we'll see RTM, requirement traceability matrix, because you people wanted to know about Jira again. If we have time, we'll go through requirement traceability, or we can go through tomorrow, because I have an exercise for you on requirement traceability also. Okay, so we'll start now. So test environment. As I said, what is a test environment? In the STLC phase, it comes after the designing, test case designing phase. So obviously we have written a test case. A set of test cases are ready for every stories, right? And now we want to execute a test case on some environment to perform a testing to check if the requirements are fine, or the if the developed code or a piece of software is fine. So that type of what to say process is called as test environment setup, and that place where we perform our testing is called as test environment. Okay, so it is obviously setup of hardware, network, and software which supports test execution. It's not only software. So for each for few projects, they would have mentioned this type of hardware and this type of network, it should work on all hardwares and networks. So we should be having particular that what to say developed or developed piece of code as a software with hardware and network settings enabled in it for us to perform our testing. So configured as required for the application under test. So application under test, I told you what is UAT, right? So there is a difference between UAT and AUT. Okay, so UAT is, what is UAT, anyone?
User acceptance testing.
Yes, user acceptance testing, right? But AUT is application under test. So a test environment can also be called as AUT. Whatever application which is under which can be tested or which is put under testing is called as AUT. It can also be production environment also. We might perform some testing, okay, basic testing and all, high level testing. So that is called as AUT. Know the difference between this, because this can be your interview question again. Okay, so now we have something called test bed. In interview, they will ask you what is a test bed. Okay, so at the time, few people will say that it is test environment can also be called as test bed, but that is not the proper answer. You should say, if we have a test environment with test data, then it is called as test bed. Okay, test bed is a combination of test environment and test data. So these are all interview questions again. See, test bed is an interview question. So be clear, what is a test environment, what is a test bed. Okay, so what are the key elements of our test environment setup? So what all data we require to set up our environment. So application under test, what application, the developed application we need. Then we need test data, we need a database server obviously, and we need a hardware and OS, we need a network, we need a browser, we need front end and defect tracking tool. So these are all the key elements for setting up our environment. Okay, understood what is a test environment and what are the key elements of test environment setup? Any questions here? Okay. So going to the next. So this is how the test environment transition happens. Okay. Initially, the developers will have an environment. Okay. So imagine we have a lab environment. Okay, to be developed. Okay. So at that time, if it is in the hands of developers, initially they are the people who will be developing. So how the environment or the URL will be is lab dot dev com. Okay, so this is how the URL will be. So lab.dev.com, or it'll be like local.lab.dev.com, something like that and all. So this is the environment which is preferably only for the developers. Here you will see the difference. Okay, so now after the developer has tested this, use this, develop this, they will deploy it to the QA people. So here how the environment will look is, it will be lab.qa.com. So with this URL difference itself, we can recognize if this is a QA site or dev site or UAT or production. Okay, so now coming to the next, for UAT, obviously it will be lab.uat.com. Okay, and now in production, this is the main area where the real time users will be using. So it will be just lab.com. For example, if Amazon is under development, imagine it will be amazon.dev.com. When the environment is ready for QA people, it will be amazon.qa.com. Now, if it comes for UAT, it will be amazon.uat.com. And now, when it comes to production, it will be amazon.com. Okay. Now, understood what is the difference and how the environments will look for each set of people.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
can you please explain for UAT environment, ma'am?
So for UAT environment, if environment will be set up, if after testing is performed, all this will be deployed to the UAT and it will be lab.uat.com. Okay, so with this difference, we'll come to know which environment this URL is, which environment this what to say, this software is used, can be used. Understood? Any more questions here from anyone else? So this is about environment setup. Okay, this is how the environment will be set up for each people. Okay, for development it will be this way, QA it will be this way, UAT it will be this way, and finally production it will be a different one. A real what to say, application will, URL will be only in the production. So now here this development will use some data, right? They will be using some data for they will be doing the unit testing. And now we will not be using this. Now as a QA, I will prepare a set of data to test the application. In the same way, UAT people, what they will, so I have already said you, right, they will use few real production datas over here to test the UAT environment. Okay, so this is how the test data will also differ for each environment. So now what we are going to see is how we are going to prepare the test data for QA environment. Okay, we are not much concerned about these environment, because we'll be doing our complete application testing under QA environment. So we'll be concerned about how we prepare data for QA environment. So how we will prepare is we will be having an idea of how the data will look in production. Okay, so if I am going to work for a hospital application, then in the hospital application, obviously I'll know I need a doctor information, and I will be having a patient information with the patient's vital data and his demographic data, and what to say, what concern he has reached the hospital, that history of his health, and we know we will be having an idea from the requirement. So these type of data should be will be available in production. So based on that, we will be preparing our test data for testing the application. Okay, so that's what I said, simulation of production data to test the application on QA environment, that is called as test data preparation. Okay, for what it will be used is it will be used to execute test case and test scripts. Okay, test difference, can anyone tell me what is the difference between test case and test script?
Test case which is used in manual testing. One test scripts in
Yes.
automation we say it is test scripts.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so for executing both test cases and test script, we'll be using this test data which we have prepared. Now we have different types of test data. Okay, first, for happy path or positive testing, we'll be using a valid test data. Okay, now while doing a negative testing means going against the requirement. Okay, we'll be using invalid data. If they say uh, this what to say, the password field should accept only 8 characters with combination of alphanumeric, and it should have a capital letter, and it should have a hash, I'll give the same thing, that will be a valid test data. But without giving this, if I just give A B C D all in small without any special characters or numbers, then this is going to be a invalid test data to test the scenario. And few areas we will not give data at all, right, that is called as no data. And what is null test data is, it is totally different. This no data and null test data is totally different. Having our data, that is, see, this is an application. Okay, here I have a two fields, or we have just one field, and we have a search icon here. Here, without giving any data, when I hit on an enter search, it is called as no data. Okay, testing with no data. But see, in database, what I will do is, there is a list of what to say, list of televisions. Okay, for Samsung we have Samsung, we have Sony, we have Panasonic. And imagine, what I'm doing is I'm removing this value alone from database. Okay, I'm doing this in backend, I'm removing this from database. And what will happen, it will have an entry for all the fields for Panasonic, but the name is alone removed. Okay, now here what I do, I try to give Panasonic and hit a search. What happens is, sometime if it is not handled properly, our application will break down. Okay, so this is called as null test data. Understood the difference between no data and null test data? Empty, giving an empty value in a database and testing is called a null test data. Giving an empty value in your application and testing is called as no data. Understood? So this is how we'll be performing our test data preparation. Any questions here? Okay, we'll move to the next one. So now as we have techniques for everything in our STLC, we do have techniques for test data creation also. So we'll see one by one. So manual is, so manually based on experience, we know this type of data should be given inside this field. We suppose we have a big form. Okay, in this form, it asks for you for name, date of birth, and what to say, your spouse name, your kids name, and parents name, and something and all, and there is a submit button. So obviously, as a common user of the application or a test engineer, we will know that yes, we need to give a name, our first name, last name, spouse first name, last name, kids name, date of birth. So we'll be manually preparing the test data in an Excel sheet or on any other tool. Okay, so that is called as preparing the manual creation technique. Okay, testers create test data on an Excel sheet considering the test scenarios. So, what type of scenario we are going to perform? Based on that, we'll be creating the test data on Excel. That is called that is done manually. Okay. So now imagine we need to perform a testing where we are going to use the same form. We have a save button here. Okay, and we have save and next. Okay, so what we are going, or we need to, what we are going to do is we need to input around 100% values. Okay, 1 minutes that is fine, 10 minutes that is fine. Now we need to input 1,000 values in values of people over here in this form, and we have a option to upload it from Excel sheet. Okay, we have an option to upload it from Excel sheet. We just click on this upload button. We have a sheet with 1,000 people data, and we just import it. Okay, so now we need to prepare 1,000 data. Is this really possible if we try manually? No, right? We need to sit and enter what to say, 1,000 people's first name, last name, spouse name, kids name, date of birth. So that is not possible at all. So at that time, what we will do is we'll we are having some automated data generation tools. Okay, we have something called DTM, test data generator, and we also have in open search. If you just give any data generation tool or data generation tool online, something, if you give like that itself, you'll be having multiple things. Okay, in that we can create our test data. We'll try, wait, I'll try to search if we are able to find out. So if you see, I think we need to create an account and all. Okay, we'll try. Okay, random password. See, if you see this also, and this one also, I'll show you. Random string. See, if we can just give a condition over here. Okay, I want the password to be 12, and it should include this, it should have a number, it should have symbols. And if we click on generate random data, see obviously you're getting a password here, right? So in this way, for creating multiple, what to say, uh, we can also create multiple datas also. Okay, see here for email, we can have, if we click on generate, see here it will give you all, these are all test data, these are all not real data, real time users data. Okay, so in this way, so random string, if you want to generate also, if I give a random string, you need to test. Okay, so imagine I need there is a field which will accept only 150 characters. So I can just give 150 and hit generate. We can't go and sit and type 150 characters on that field to test, right? Instead, I can just copy it from here and I can use it for testing. Or you can do one more thing also. If you're going to do a negative testing, I can give 152. Now I can just copy this and perform my testing. In this way, you'll be having multiple online generation test data generators. Okay, so wait. Here now I am going to create a form. Okay, so what type of data I want name, I want phone, I want email, street address, I want region, I want country, and I want, okay. Now what I do is I will CSV, choose a format, I'll put CSV or HTML, I'll put whatever it is. If you want to download, you can use CSV format or Excel format. And if you generate, see here, if you see, your test data is generated. You can either see here, now it is generated. Now you can save it and you can use it. In this way, we also have multiple datas. In Excel, it will come and generate and give you the details completely. So this is how automatically we can use. So field name, you see, I'm going to add a field name. So this is going to be field type word. Okay, now I want age. This field type is going to be number. I'll give something for your understanding. Now what I'm going to do is, family name. Okay, word. So this much is enough for your understanding. Okay, now I'll also add date of birth, date and time. Okay, so now see, totally I want 10 details. If I give 100, I can give. If I want 1000, I can give. Now I'll give 100. What type of output format? CSV. And if I generate, see now, you will get all the test data in this way. You can automatically pick this and use for testing, or either you can upload this to the application if it is having a export option. Okay, few applications will have a export option to just pull in all the records and create the details. So in this way, we can create we can use automated data generator tool to generate your what to say, your test data. Any doubts in this? Is it clear?
Ma'am, what is CSV, ma'am?
CSV is a what to say, it's a format. Yeah, see, if you see, like Excel, right? It is a format. You can import it into Excel and also change it to Excel format.
Okay, ma'am.
Most of the applications, right, they will upload your file in CSV formats only, CSV or Excel. Okay, so now did you people understand how we use automated generation? So next is copy from production. Now what we will do is we can place a request to the production team or the product owner or anyone who is in production, who's responsible. We can say, see, we are not sure how the production data will look. So we want a copy or a sample from production, and so that we can do our testing. So in UAT, we need a copy from production, right? So that way we can also get it for QA environment, and we can perform our testing. Okay, so that is called copy from production. Next is database injection. Here I told you, right, in earlier thing, here we update in database, we change the value to null in database and we test it, right? In that way, you can also update the database using queries or something like that. You can update the database and perform testing on that module. Okay, understood? So these are the types how we create our test data for testing. Any questions in this? Okay. So what is the time now? Okay, we have time. So requirement traceability matrix. So requirement traceability matrix is nothing but See, you have a list of requirements, you can call it as stories, and you have also created test cases for each stories, right? So what we are going to do is we will map the test case and the requirement to ensure that, see, all the requirements are covered in the test case, and no extra things are added in my test case which is not available in requirements. To ensure these things, we create a matrix. You know matrix, right? You know what a matrix is. It'll be in this way. It'll be a mapping. Okay, here I will be having a set of conditions or list of test cases, and here be I'll be having list of requirements. So this requirement is covered in this test case. This requirement is covered in this test case. This requirement is covered in this test case. So we can get a clear picture of where the requirement is available in our test case. And if you see here, nothing is, this test case is not mapped with any requirement. So we can come to a conclusion that this is a extra test case or something which has been removed from the requirement, which is returned. So we can ignore this test case. If there is a requirement which is not mapped to any test case, we can confirm that yes, no, I think there is no test case written for this. We have to write a test case, and we can maintain this. Suppose after writing, we need to again update this matrix with the test case number, and we can map this requirement over here saying that it is available. Understood? For what we use requirement traceability matrix? Now it helps testers to ensure nothing is missed from the requirement. Okay, for testing, are we, if the test coverage is full, are we covering the all the requirements in the provided requirement specification? To ensure that we do it, each requirement is traced with respective test cases. When it will be doing is obviously during a regression or end-to-end testing, we can do it. End-to-end testing can achieved with help of requirement traceability matrix. Okay, so requirements test script, few will also be having test scripts. Okay, but don't be concerned, because most of our things are what to say, nowadays we use only test cases. Okay, so requirement will be mapped with test scripts, test scripts will be mapped with test cases. If the test case is having defect, that will also be mapped over here. Okay, so what will happen, obviously we can backtrace. If we have a defect number, we can see, okay, this is part of this test case, so obviously this is part of this requirement, right? We can backtrack from defect, or from requirement also we can track to the defect. So the benefits are, it helps in analyzing the impact of requirement change. Here I said, right, if we are having a new requirement, then we need to write new test case for that and perform a testing. So whatever requirement changes comes in, we can also analyze it, where which areas these requirement change needs to be implemented. It helps in identifying missing requirements. As I said here again, if something is missing, if I have not written test cases for a requirement, that can also be tracked. And it helps in tracking bugs and find root cause of the defect. So it can backtrace the defect to the requirements, and will be able to check why this defect is coming. Okay, or where this defect is coming. So any questions here in requirement traceability?
Ma'am,
I'll, yeah.
here this you said the scripts are not necessary, no, ma'am, in manual testing.
Not I didn't say it is not required. Just no, but most of the times our requirement traceability will be having requirement test case and defect only.
If it is automation, ma'am,
No, no, no.
testing.
This is this is for testing process only, not automation or manual. Both should be covered.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, now types of traceability, we have forward traceability, backward traceability, and bidirectional. So I said here, right? So tracing from requirement to test script to test case to defect is forward traceability. Okay, so we can trace in this way. Suppose we have a defect ID and we want to know the requirement ID. So we can backtrace it. I said, right? So from defect to test case to requirement, this is called backward traceability. Okay, I'll show you now. And we also have bidirectional. So doing it in the both way. So if you see here, forward traceability is it maps the requirement to the test cases. It ensures all the requirements are being tested from top to bottom, from first to last. If all the requirements are tested to ensure that we will do. Done before test case execution. It is always done before test case execution. Before what to say, executing a test case, we need to check if all the requirements are having all test cases. To do that, we do forward traceability. It checks if the product is developed in the right direction, so we can ensure yes the requirements are covered, that we are having the traceable, sorry, test cases also ready for these requirements, so we can ensure that yes it is, we are in the right direction. So for that, forward traceability is done. Now the next one is backward or reverse. Okay. So this will be done after execution. Because after execution only, obviously you'll be having the defect ID and all, right? So it'll maps the test cases with the requirement. So after execution, we will check if all the test cases are executed and if all the test cases are having requirements, are mapped to requirements, ensures no additional. In this way, what we'll do is if we have any extra test cases or if a requirement is removed as a change, so in that time we can also ensure that this test case is what to say, it is done by mistake. We need to remove it because the requirement is removed, so we need to remove the test case also to ensure that we'll be doing reverse traceability. And as I said, it will be done after execution. Okay, understood? Now, next is bidirectional, is it is a combination of what to say, backward and forward. Okay, so before, what we will do is before testing a test case, we will check the traceability from requirement, and after testing we will also check if test case execution is done properly, and if it is mapping the requirement, we'll be doing everything together. So at that time we'll be doing a bidirectional traceability. So combination of forward and backward, done before and after execution. It confirms if each requirement has test case, and if there's a change in requirement, it can be maintained here. Understood what it is? Okay. Now, attributes. What are the attributes of requirements are? We will be having a requirement ID or a story number or whatever it is. Okay. And we'll be having a requirement description, what the story is about. And we'll be having a test scenario if needed. Okay. If this is because nowadays in real time, we don't use we don't write test scenarios because we are having acceptance criteria already available in the story, right? So we don't write test scenarios, so that is why I said don't worry much about this. Okay. And we'll be having test case ID, and we'll be having test case description. We'll be having test result, defect ID, and defect status. Okay, these are the attributes of requirement traceability matrix. So now here I have, see, I'm going to write a test case. I have three requirements. Okay, for first alone I'll write test case, and I will write how I'll show you how to write a requirement traceability matrix. Okay, so now we have three requirements. What are the requirement IDs? BR1, BR2, and BR3. Okay, so now where's the Excel? So I'll have a sheet. See, this sheet is going to be just requirement details. Okay, requirement details. Okay, and this sheet is going to be your test case. Okay, test case, and this sheet is going to be your requirement traceability matrix. So now here I have shown you three requirements, right? So first one is, so requirement ID description. Sorry, I think I have put wrong place. So your requirement IDs are BR1, BR2, and BR3. Okay, and I'll copy the description. This is the description. Now this is the description for BR2, and this is the description for BR3. Okay, so understood what this sheet is about, everyone? I'm taking your silence as positive. Are you people really okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now quickly tell me what are the test case um, attributes. The basic ones are enough. I don't want the project name, that thing and all. So first is test case ID. Next one.
Test case description.
Yes,
Okay. Test case description. Next one.
result.
Precondition.
Pre-
Precondition. Next.
Steps.
Steps to
Yeah. Steps to reproduce. Next.
Test data.
Yes. Sorry. Test data. Then
Accepted result.
expected result. Yeah. Then actual result.
Okay.
These are going to be your interview questions. They'll ask what and all, what are the attributes of test case, what are the attributes of what to say your requirement traceability matrix and all. Okay, so that's why I ask you to keep telling me. Okay, actual result. Then next one, status. So we are going to match if these are matching, and if it is not matching, we are going to update the status. If it is matching also, we'll update the status, right? And then, so if it fails, we need a defect raised, defect ID, and assignee. And okay, assignee is enough. Fine. Is this fine, or have I missed something? Okay, fine, right? Okay, now what is our requirement? Our requirement is users should click on sign up button to get registered and access wiki. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, test case 001. Test case description is going to be register new user to Swiggy. Okay, precondition is user should not be registered. Fine. So now our steps to reproduce is going to be, first open URL, test data. I can give swiggy.com or something like that. And expected result is URL Swiggy application should be launched. Okay. Now next one is click on register. Okay, After clicking on register, registration page should be open. Oh, sorry. Should be opened. Okay. Now, what is the next one? Enter mobile and click next. Here, OTP. Sorry. OTP should be generated. Next is enter valid OTP and click on submit. So, user should be registered. I'm writing in a very high level. Okay. So, now here our requirement is he should register and he should have an access to Swiggy. Okay. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write one more test case. Test case 00, sorry, test case 002. So, above registered user is able to access Swiggy. Okay. What is going to be our precondition? User should be registered. Now enter mobile and click next. Right. So what is going to be a test data? Your above registered mobile number. Okay, here you have registered, right? That one. And now OTP page is displayed. Now enter OTP. Sorry. Yeah, OTP page is displayed and OTP generated for user. Enter OTP and click on click login. Okay. So now user should be logged in. Fine. So now for this business requirement 1, BR1, I am having two test cases. I think someone is not on mute. Can everyone mute? Thank you. So now for this, what is it? So now for this business requirement, I'm having two test cases. Am I correct? So now what we are going to do is we are going to test the application. So I'm testing the application. Okay. So register a new user. I'm performing execution of test case 1. It is opening. Okay, fine. Swiggy application is launched. Yeah.
The user should not be registered, the free condition. That is negative test case.
No. We are going to register a new user, right? So he
Oh,
should not be already registered, right?
okay.
Yeah.
For new register.
Yes. Okay, so now this is going to be pass for me. Now registration page is open. Yeah, this is also pass for me. I imagine I'm updating the actual and I'm marking it as pass. This is also pass. Okay. And user should be registered. Yes, pass. Now what I do is now in test case 2, OTP page is displayed. Yes, that is pass. But when I enter OTP and click, I'm not able to log in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fail this, mark it as fail. And imagine I have raised a bug for this. That defect ID is defect 001. Okay, so now we have performed testing for business requirement 1 and we have raised a bug also. So now how we are going to prepare the requirement traceability matrix. So here we come. So we'll go one by one. So we need a requirement ID, right? requirement ID, and we'll be having a test case ID. We have this here, test case ID. Okay, and test case ID, test case description. Okay, I think you can mark it here. Description, and you have test result and defect ID and defect status. Okay, so this is how your requirement traceability will look. So your what is your business requirement ID? You have BR1, you have BR2, and you have BR3. Right. Now test case ID, you have to wait. What is happening? TC001, you'll be having it in a, what is it? You'll be having it continuously. Okay. So TC001, see, I'm confusing a lot. It'll open the older one. I really got confused. Yes. See, I got confused now. Okay, now. So now business requirement 1 is having test case 1, and also we are having test case 2. Right? TC002. So business requirement 1 is having test case 001 and test case 002. Now we can say what is this test case is about, and what we are going to do is result is we are going to fail, because test case 002 is a fail. Okay, and what is the defect ID? Defect 001. And what is the current defect status? We are going to mark. We are going to mark it as maybe like it is open. So in this way, if you are going to fail this, you have to mention it is fail for test case 002. And here this is fine, because we are have already marked it here for which test case this is a failure. So now if you see, this business requirement has failed, the testing of business requirement is having a failure. And for what it is having a failure? For test case 002. So in this way we can map the test case. So imagine we have the defect ID, we want to know which test case it belongs, or which requirement is it belongs. So from here we can backtrace and see it has failed for test case 002. So test case 002 is mapped with business requirement 1. So this is all about what to say, your requirement traceability matrix. Okay, it's a very simple and high level thing. In detail we can have, see here I have prepared few. I have actually added the what to say, epic here, epic in this way. For story, I have put it in this way. Test case ID will be having this, and we can pass it. So in this way, it you can also split up the what to say, epic into stories. If you want to map with the epic also, you can map it in this way. Understood? Any questions?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I'm not able to understand. This
Okay.
is RTM, requirement traceability
Yeah.
matrix.
Yes. See, I have a requirement ID as Epic one. Okay.
Ma'am, we need to do three Excel sheet.
No, no, no. Today, what you're going to do is three not required, two. What you're
Two.
going to do is, where is it? For business requirement one, you can have this as Epic, okay? Epic one, Epic two, and Epic three. If you're going to split it up into multiple stories, you can split. Here, I have actually made it as a single story, but multiple test cases. If it is in that way, you have to write in this way, okay? So imagine you have Epic and you're splitting up it in stories. So if it is going to be in that way, then you have to write like this: Epic story ID, what are all the test cases, is if it is pass or fail, and if it is failing, what is the defect ID and the status. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
I'll share you both. If you're having just the business requirement, if you are having the Epic and story, then you can write it in this way. If you are having just the business requirement ID, you should be writing it in this way. Map you. I'll show you what is this. I'll share you both. Okay. I think you'll be able to understand now. Now, what you people are going to do is, for today's exercise, I will share you the sheet. I will share you the Excel also in sorry, PPT. In PPT, you have business requirement 2 and 3. You try to write in two ways. Okay, you can make this as a what to say, Epic, and you can, if possible, you can split it into stories, and you can write the test case and requirement traceability matrix, or you can make it in this way also, the way I showed you earlier, just with the business requirement. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, fine. Now I think quickly we'll go through what is about this. What is that? I'll put this as a new video for you.